after that, off and on. I became a teacher myself at Penn State. And by then, in 1947, fall of 47, he came here. And those are his Blue Moon days. From 1947, I came here in 1954. He got married in 1953 to Beatrice, and I don't think he went to the Blue Moon very often after that. I only was with him in the Blue Moon a couple of times. But he haunted the Blue Moon, I suspect, between 1947 and 1952 or 3, when he started wooing Beatrice back east. And those were his Blue Moon days. I didn't know him then. I mean, I wasn't here then. I came here in '54, and I haunted the Blue Moon myself. But Recchi only came in a couple of times that I knew of.
Okay.
But Dick Hugo was here, and James Wright and other poets, and they invaded the place and used it.
So how do you think he, including yourself and Richard Hugo, I noticed there was Keitzer, C.K. Williams,
Carolyn Kaiser. Yeah.
How did he influence so many
They were
people?
his students. They took class
Right.
at his workshop. Hugo, James Wright, and Carolyn Kaiser and I were all students of his.
What did he do to impart his knowledge to you?
Christ almighty. I wrote a whole play about
I know
it.
you did.
It's in the, I think you can download it from Google. It was in the Georgia Review.
Okay.
And or I can send you a copy.
Oh, I'd love to read it. We did look
I should
for
have
it.
brought one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have it on
It's just his magnificence as a teacher and how he. I
Yeah,
mean, you were probably very gifted when you came into the class, but.
He was hair-raising.
Ah.
He knew reams of poetry by heart, and he cared so much about this. He was wonderful.
So, Retke's remained a part of your life for the last 55 years, even though he's passed and all?
Why, sure, because I'm a teacher and have a poetry workshop, teach it often. I taught when he died, I took over his class and continued, and I felt naturally connected because he had taught me so much, or I felt he had. And I used some of his methods. I developed my own, of course, but they were based on his principles. And I think the same is true of Dick Hugo, who became a teacher at the University of Montana, and of Carolyn Kaiser, who taught at a number of places, and of James Wright, who taught at Minnesota and then at Hunter College, had workshops, and they were all based on the principles that Retke had taught us.
Could you elaborate on those principles?
Well, one of them, probably the basic one, was that sound and rhythm in poetry are essential, and that meaning is only secondary, and that if you study poetry for its meaning, you're losing the whole deal. Dylan Thomas said the same thing to me. He agreed with Retke in all these principles. If it doesn't sound right and move right, it's crap.
Yeah, I had a poetry teacher, Don McLeod, up at Fairhaven College. I don't know if you'd run across him. He taught the PI writer Fred Moody mentions him in his book, and he was very much about the emotional stream and finding your voice and trying to connect with.
Triumvirate is sound, rhythm, and meaning, and they must all be together and intermingle and support each other.
Neat. Part of my mom's idea for the film was around when he got the Bollingen Award in 1959, and he may have said "to the moon," or he wanted to go celebrate. Is that true, or?
I have no idea. I wouldn't doubt it, but I don't know.
All right. Did you ever drink with Retke at the Moon?
Yes, a couple of times.
Do you have any interesting stories from that?
No, he often was morose, and I have no particular memories of the way he acted in the Moon. All of his japes and stories of his cutting up must have been before my time, when he was still a bachelor. He became much more orderly in his private life and public life after he was married.
We weren't recording earlier. Could you go over that part that he, his reputation as a womanizer and how that changed again when he was married?
Well, he was a formidable man physically. He was, I think, about 6'3" and had long arms and legs and a lot of vitality. And he was a feeler up of faculty wives at parties and a general cut-up. A lot of it was just show. I wasn't around him when he was a bachelor in Seattle, so I can't say for sure what he did then, but I watched him in other places and other events. But it was mostly a kind of bravado, a way of occupying a room, and I think most of the women he toyed with forgave him or were amused.
Now, do you think his relationship with his wife is something most people don't know about? I mean, it sounds like it was very much a deep love, perhaps?
I think it certainly was. He told me so, and I saw them together again and again. He gave her, because of his mental troubles and his bipolar life, he gave her some tremendous strains. I mean, she developed tuberculosis at one point and had to be in a sanitarium. And that's usually a sign of some deep emotional trouble, at her age anyway. She's a very beautiful woman, and still is in her 80s. And I think he found a kind of ideal in her. The poems certainly say so. It freed a whole barrage of love poetry from him that he had been unable to write before, because he hadn't had those feelings. He'd had a number of affairs, some of them quite, I don't know what the proper words are, but you can read about one of them. The poet Louise Bourgain wrote a letter to Edmund Wilson, the critic, about saying that she and Retke were having an affair, rolling around on the floor like teenagers, she said, among other things.
Now, you two, it seems like you had a deep and abiding friendship with Theodore Retke that is still present in your life.
He was a really kind and caring mentor for me, and he recommended me to people in the literary world, and I think he, Robert Lowell, for instance, and a number of others, he praised me to them and paved the way for my relatively easy career as a young poet.
But you obviously were very talented also.
Well, I worked hard at it, and he was the first living poet I ever encountered. And when he became my teacher, I found a role model that, except for his mental life, that I had never